What is the most useful and empowering story I can tell myself about what is happening and what I need to do next? That's a quote by James Clear. And that is my guest, Allison Tyler Jones's one of her favorite quotes. So I love when I can pick on what someone else is inspired by for my quotes. So welcome again to my show. This is
Thank you.
Luce, and welcome to all my listeners and everybody. I'm trying to turn on my do not disturb. There we go. So before I tell you who my amazing guest is today, I want to remind you that if you go to lucydumascoaching.com, Lucy with an I, you can book a quick 20-minute call, or if you go to my Instagram or all the other places that you get notices. I love comments. Um, and questions. All right. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest. Allison Tyler Jones is not normal, rumor has it. Um, she does not sell printable digital files. She does own one of the most profitable portrait studios in the country. She's a CPP master craftsman, um, and she designs large wall art, formal galleries, and custom albums for her clients' home. Her style of photography is immediately recognizable. It's what she calls lifestyle meets commercial with a dose of chaos. I love that. She calls it art that happens to be your family. So, welcome, Allison, so much. Thanks for saying yes.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
You're welcome. So, you also have a podcast. It's called Rework. What is there a
The
second?
the rework the rework with Allison Tyler Jones. Yep.
Okay. So, what does rework mean? Why that title?
Well, the quote that you just read and the title of the rework is that I think we tell ourselves a lot of stories about what it is that we're doing. We tell ourselves stories about what we're selling, what kind of business we're in, and those stories are sometimes true and sometimes they're not true. And so the rework was just an effort to I've been speaking for a lot of years, talking to a lot of photographers, and I see common mistakes and common stories that don't help us. And so the rework is specifically designed to uniquely brand, help portrait photographers to uniquely brand, profitably price, and confidently sell their best work.
Hmm.
I think the business is as creative as the artwork itself. And so I just love the business of portrait photography.
So, in effect, tell me if I'm on track. So, it's like for a lot of people who've already created established businesses, they're not quite the way they want them, or maybe not so established, but to rework everything you're doing so that you're able to really achieve what you hope. Is that
Right. I think a lot of us start, yeah, I think a lot of us start into the business and we think, okay, it's going to be this way. I'm going to sell digital files. I'm going to just, you know, it's going to be super easy. And then you realize, oh my gosh, I'm retouching till 3 a.m. every night. I'm never seeing my kids. It's hard. And so there's just some reworking that you need to do in the stories you're telling yourself. And then also how you're running your business, the rules that you have, how you're pricing yourself, how you're branding yourself, the message that you're sending out to clients. And it just, those little tweaks can make all the difference, especially after you've been established for a while. It's like photography itself. You know, when the lighting isn't just right, you're not moving the light 3 feet across the room. You're moving it a couple of inches, maybe a tiny bit more of an angle, and that makes all the difference.
I love that because it feels so less daunting. Like, uh,
Yeah.
I've got to, I think maybe the word reinvent sort of
Yes.
sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
And
Well, and we're creative, so we actually love to reinvent. Like,
huh?
like we're all about that. And so then oh, you know what? I'm going to change my logo this year. I'm going to completely redo everything. And actually, we shouldn't be doing that. Like, we don't need to be making big, huge changes. We just need to be making little reworks that can make all the difference in our
Right,
business.
right. If I think about either the people that I've coached or in my life, I had never thought about it that way before, Allison, but they are little tweaks, like in how I do my projection, one of the things I added to my system is that after I separate images into possible categories, then I have a slideshow again of the possible wall art, and we go through it twice. And that like doubled my sales. One little tiny change. So
Yep.
yeah, that's
It's
awesome.
amazing.
So just a little quickie about your today's word in my head is origin story. So
Yeah.
tell me a little
So
about where you came from.
I'm not going to tell you about how my mom gave me my camera when I was in fourth grade. No.
Oh, darn.
Um, I know. And then I was film. No, just kidding.
No.
I am a portrait photographer.
Hmm.
I'm a people lover. I've been in business excuse me. This year will be 20 years
Wow.
in the portrait photography business. And so that is my main, really, that's 100% of my income. My husband and I both work in the business. We are all in on portrait photography. That is how we pay our mortgage. That is how we put our kids through college. That's how we've raised 7 kids. And we are all in. Yep.
So do you both photograph?
No, he is production back end. He's the man behind the curtain that makes it all happen.
So I have an extra 20 years on you in business. And in that 20 years, so many of the most successful photography studios had these wonderful wives that were doing the back end. And I would
Mhm.
say, I need a wife, not for the wifely part,
Oh,
but for the business.
totally. I've always said that. I need a wife. Yep.
And it makes me so happy to hear that your husband is doing what a lot of the wives used to do
Yeah.
and still do in our industry. I'm sure you know a lot of teams as well, where one of them is the main photographer. But I love that how it's been able to shift a little. I never managed to get a work wife, um, sadly, but I've still made a living for 40 years too. So
That's
um,
awesome.
yeah, but I probably would have been less stressed.
Yes, for
Okay,
sure. He has all
so
the skills that I lack.
yeah, and we can find someone to do that and we can pay them and make more
Hmm.
money. We don't have to live in the same house and have 7 kids with them, right?
Right.
Seven
Probably
kids.
best not.
7 kids. So what are the
I
age
know.
ranges? I'm just curious about.
37 down to 30.
Hmm. She got grandbabies?
11.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you're a rich
it's
woman in
amazing.
my book. All
Absolutely.
right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So you already touched on some of what my first question is going to be. But before that, I want to read something that Allison submitted in her info and see if you can give me a little bit of deeper explanation of this. So, Allison believes you can have it all. You can create beautiful work and have a successful business too. So, why is that an important thought, or what do you mean by that?
Well, I think in the art world, for sure, there's that concept of like, if you really are a true artist, you don't sell out,
Mm,
that I've heard, if I've heard it a million times. I'm not really motivated by money, you know.
mm,
And so if you're not really motivated by money, my thought is then don't do it for money. Just do it as a hobby. Keep it as your passion and do something else for money or find another way, get a sugar mama or sugar daddy and find another way to, pay your bills. But let's be honest, if we are wanting to do this for money, then you need to have excellence in your business as well as you do in your craft.
mm. I love that. Um, I had a coaching client who I trained him on how you can have a business, how you can make money, all the steps. And he was a wonderful hobby photographer. And he had a job he actually loved. And he realized, well, as much as he appreciated things he learned from me and actually things he learned he takes in his other job because he was in marketing in his other job, I think. But his conclusion was, I want to do this as a passion and a hobby, and I'll go make money over here. And I
Yeah.
don't consider that a failure. It was a good insight, and he grew in many ways. But so just what you're saying.
Yeah, it just goes back to again that idea of the story that you're telling yourself. If you're telling yourself a story, there's lots of stories. So there's a story of like the economy is bad, nobody's buying photography anymore. I have to sell digital files because nobody wants printed artwork anymore. Everybody only wants digital files. Or I can't be successful and be an amazing artist at the same time.
And
And
the
you can, and those will be true. You can make all of those stories true for you. If you
Mhm.
believe it, it will be true for you.
Yes. My favorite book when I was in my 20s, one of them was called Illusions, Tales of the Reluctant Messiah. It's a
Mm,
fun, inspirational fable. Richard Bach, who wrote Jonathan Livingston's
hmm
fable, and he's got quotes because the main character meets a person who was the Messiah and he wants to teach someone else so he can go retire. Basically, it's a fable. But one of
hmm
the quotes that I wrote down that over the course of my entire professional life comes back to me, which is argue for your limitations and they're
You
yours.
get to keep them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that you said that in a slightly different way. So my first question is still just totally goes with what you're talking about is so many of us start this business because we love photography and we think, gosh, maybe I could make money from this and not have to do something else. And I think a great many of us don't even think about most of my time is going to be taken running a business unless I find a work wife or work husband or, whatever support we need. And we don't think like, oh, I want to have a business. So tell me some thoughts on that, on what we need to consider learning or what the overall picture of running a successful portrait studio looks like.
Well, I mean, at the bare bones, and this is going to sound really silly, but you have to charge more than what it costs you. I mean, that's just the bare bones of being in business is that it needs to make money. You don't, the most sorrowful way of being in business, in my opinion, is that we work so hard. What we do is hard.
Yes.
Um, Even if you're excellent at your craft, if you're a portrait photographer, a wedding photographer, if you're working with people, it is hard. You're dealing with personalities, you're dealing with mood, you're dealing with all of that, in addition to a whole technical suite of decisions that have to be made. So we're problem solving on the fly. We're keeping the energy up. We want to create, capture personality and make them look as beautiful as we possibly can. And that is all very difficult.
Yes.
And if we don't, and so you kill yourself, right, in the shoot. And
Mhm.
then you retouch everything to the nth degree. And if you love retouching, then you can never leave it alone and you're doing way too much. And then before you know it, you spent hours and hours and hours. And then somebody's giving you a hard time about pricing. How could you possibly charge that much? Or they don't want to follow your rules or whatever. And then you find that then when they even did pay you for it, you're just passing that money along to your lab or to your Adobe membership or whatever it is that you're spending money on. You're not, that money's passing through, but you're not getting to keep any of it. And that's soul destroying. Pieces of my soul, like my friend Kim Wiley said, pieces of my soul are hanging on the walls in my town, in my clients' homes. It is literally a piece of my soul to have that interaction, to light them, to see them in a way, in a unique way that can celebrate that family or those kids. And that's worth something.
I love that. I love that. Yesterday, I was in Balboa Park in San Diego. Have you been to Balboa
I
Park?
haven't.
It's this,
Oh, Balboa. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes.
yes. So it's
Yes.
this beautiful set of buildings that were patterned after Seville, Spain for the World
hmm
Fair in 1915. And I can look out my window and I can see the tower. There's a canyon and then the park. And it always has beautiful light as long as the sun is out, even if it's raining.
Hmm.
Uh, and as I was walking through, I was having this combination of joy, memories, what you say about the peace of my soul. I'm like that really has hit me, Allison, because I've done hundreds and hundreds of sessions in that location. And
Hmm.
so the feeling, the memories, the effort, the time uh, came back to me, and also some post-traumatic stress because it is
Hmm.
hard. And to get people, all assembled, get them there at the right time, having all our stuff, and then trying to get them all in good poses with creative backgrounds, nicely lit, keeping my energy
Yeah.
up. My niece has a 4-year-old, and his energy is a lot. I love photographing 4-year-olds because they haven't gotten
Same.
into cheese face. Is that one of your favorites?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah, totally.
But I wasn't up for wrangling him into an official portrait session when he was here this this weekend, just because the effort. So,
Yeah.
gosh, Allison, that just really like I'm choked up here thinking
Oh,
about the
yeah.
peace of our soul.
No, but
And
I think if you hold that, right? So I mean, if anybody else is feeling that same, like if you hold that, you don't dismiss then that like, oh, well, I already know how to do this. It just took a few minutes. It was no big deal. Like we minimize what we do because we're good at it. Like you've had 40 years perfecting your craft. I've had 20 years for perfecting it. And so we minimize it because it's quote unquote easy for us. Like we know how to do. And we think if somebody, if we want to raise our pricing or whatever, and we have somebody in our family say, oh my gosh, that's so expensive. And then you think, oh, I could never charge that. Well, you're just minimizing it. But if I think if you go to a place of like, no, 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 like Lucy, if I'm looking at the images that are behind you and thinking about Balboa Park, like that place like the back of your hand. If I brought my 11 grandkids over there within, probably 10 minutes, you would have us like boom, 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 lined out, done. You would have it figured out. And so me as a mom or a grandmother to know that I'm in the hands of an expert who is going to make that happen and I don't have to do anything except stand there and hope that I look skinny. I mean, that is worth money, right?
yes,
But we
absolutely.
just we discount it in our own mind. We think, no, people won't pay it. They will. But they won't if you don't value it. If you don't see the value first, nobody else ever will.
Right. And we don't need all the people. I can make a good living on 50 clients. I could make a great living on 100 if I had that work husband or work wife or
Yeah.
built uh built a team. We
Yeah. Hmm.
um
And it doesn't even have to be a big team, because if I've got me, my husband, we have a client coordinator that works 30 hours a week, and then I have a full-time associate photographer slash retoucher. And we do, like that 90 to 100 sessions a year.
mhm,
And and I don't need 50 people working for me. I don't want 50 people working for me. I don't want to
right,
be in the HR business. Yeah.
right. And your sales average, I imagine, are in the somewhere 2 to 10 and more.
Yeah, we're over $1 million a year. So
Yeah.
my sales averages on our family sessions are like 16,000.
Oh, well, I like that.
Yeah,
Like that a
I do,
lot.
I do too. But again, you don't need everybody. You need
No,
people that want because I not everybody wants what I do.
right,
And I'm okay with that. I just need the people that do want it, that get it, and that are willing to go along in that journey with me.
right, right. And okay, I don't know what my andum was. That was like
Okay,
a filler while I was hoping my brain would uh pitch in something. So, oh, I know.
I understand.
Uh, so generally, tell me if you kind of think this is in line too, but when I'm working with people and helping them price for profit, on the whole, I think we keep about a third of every dollar we bring in. If we've got moderate expenses, we didn't rent a studio that's costing us 50 grand a month or something like that. But for the quick and dirty, uh, so if someone, for example, does a, a session for $300, they're maybe going to keep 100. And if they calculate all the things I think that some people might not consider, primarily our time, our education, our equipment, um, that we have to pay income tax on everything, and more and more and more. That could work out to $5 an hour if we're not careful. Do you agree with
Oh, easily. Well,
anything?
I feel, yeah, I feel like, I mean, oh my gosh, we could get super granular on this, right? On the pricing. There have been many fights online about this, but I feel like, especially if you have a studio, if you're paying rent somewhere, you're not working out of your home, that you need to be at least four times whatever it is that your cost is, and that is the bare minimum. That's cost-based pricing. So cost-based pricing just gets you in the neighborhood of where you need to start pricing. That's where, like, it can't be less than this. This is my
Mhm.
opinion. This is the world according to Allison Tyler Jones. It
Okay.
can't be less than that. That just puts you at ground level. That's like, okay, you're not losing money because there's always unintended things, right? I have to factor in that I have to reprint a certain percentage of my work.
Right.
If something comes, whatever, we forgot to retouch an eyelash, whatever. So there's gonna be mistakes. There's gonna be there's your time. There's the lab costs, all of those things. But to me, a four times that's the minimum.
Hmm.
And then you go from there to value-based pricing, which is what else? There's the sky's the limit, right? So yes, and I would say to that.
Yes. Tell me what, like, define value-based pricing. I love that term.
Well, value-based pricing is not how so many of us, when we come into the industry, price our work, is we're looking at mainly what each other are doing. And that, like, okay, what is that photographer doing? How are they charging? We're going through their websites and looking at how they're charging for things and either copying that and usually going maybe a little bit less. And that is the blind leading the blind. You have no idea what that other photographer's costs are, if they even know what they're doing, and they probably don't.
Hmm.
Or we look at like primarily a retail model. So we're looking at like national retail. You go into Bath and Body and you buy one lotion. If you buy two, then you get the third one free. There's this, buy one, get one. And this whole idea of promo pricing, discount pricing, that sort of thing, packaging.
Hmm.
And I don't like any of that because what we're comparing custom commissioned artwork with something that can be sold to anybody. I can only sell your family picture to you. That's it. Nobody is buying Lucy Dumas portraits. I mean, they're not buying my pictures of you, your family. Nobody else is buying that but you.
Hmm.
So that's custom artwork. So it's beyond boutique. If you came up through PPA, there was this, period of time where they were talking about like boutique pricing and that sort of thing. So like get beyond like the J.C. Penney and the Sears and go into this boutique pricing, which is like higher end. But I think it's even more than that because what you're doing is you're creating a custom piece of art for only that client. It can only be sold to that client. And
Hmm.
so it has to be priced commensurately.
Hmm. And what I love in that, I love that, so perfectly explained. The value-based is that what I think of with that term is, and the value to the client is not just like
Right.
buying a new purse or, it's something I always love to say, this is something you're not going to find at a garage sale. You're not going to put in the donation box for Goodwill. This is
Yeah.
going to live and increase in value day after day. Another thing I did this weekend with my nieces, we went through my photo closet, of family portraits. And oh my gosh, we're sitting at the table looking at like, oh, look at me there. Oh, was that grandma? And and of course I have big images that we get that benefit every single day. Um, and there's no way to put an actual price on the value
Right.
of all of
Right,
that.
right. You couldn't actually price what it's worth. It's like my sister's an interior designer, and we say this all the time, like you really can't charge enough for what you do because the value of it is so incredibly high if you do it well, and if you do it right, in my opinion. But I mean, we spend time, like we find out what clients want, we help them, figure out the clothing. We do all the things. It's a great experience, but also it is that piece of artwork is art that happens to be your family. It's like what I say to my clients when we're in a consultation. What I'm trying to create for you is something that when someone walks into your home, they're like, "Oh, that's really cool. Where did you get that? Oh my gosh, that's your kids. Are you kidding me?"
I
You know,
love
but if they walk in and go, "Oh, you have such a beautiful family," I feel like in my way I've kind of failed you. Like I want it to be a cool piece of art first, and then I want it to be your family. And because it's never coming off the wall. It's
right.
staying on the wall forever. And then I have the long-term plan for your client, for you over like when we should do this the next time and what this is going to look like for the rest of your life. And I want to see these kids grow up. So I'm not a one and done.
Mhm.
I'm not one of those, $1 million photographers that's going to be like, I have a, entire bank of telemarketers that I'm giving vouchers all over the town and that we're just looking for a one and done. I work on referral, I work on repeat. So I want people coming back again and again because that's sustainable.
Right.
And I love relationships. I want to watch those kids grow up. So that expectation is set from the very first consultation, the very first time we meet is that I set the expectation I want to watch your kids grow up.
I love it. So how do you retain the connection and remind them it's time for that next one? Do you have, I'm sure you have a strategy for that, that is not just accidental.
Yeah. So we just let them know, sometimes we say it in the consultation or in the sales appointment, we'll just say, because as now you're a member of the ATJ family. And
Mm,
so as such, you'll always have first dibs on our calendar and we'll call you every year to see if you need a session. But before we open up our calendar to the public, our existing clients get first dibs.
brilliant. And so at least
And
once,
then they can tell us that they don't want it or they do.
yeah. So once a year, you contact every one of your clients that you want to see back, because of course we
Yep.
always have a few that we appreciate and we're glad they go on. But the ones that you
We think they'd be
enjoy,
happier somewhere else.
yes, that's a good way to put it. So you have a system in place, you have a routine where every month I'm imagining you review, okay, who do we call this month or this week and just check in with them. Is that
Yeah. That's my client coordinator's job because the phone doesn't ring. I mean, I don't know about you, but if we're not reaching out and reminding people, people are busy and they
yeah,
want it, but they're busy.
yeah, yeah.
So I think back to I had this gorgeous jacaranda tree in my front
Mm,
yard in the house that I just moved from, and it was a hothouse orchid. It required every year it needed like fertilizing and trimming, and it just needed a lot of work, but it was absolutely gorgeous. So I have this not a tree trimmer, an arborist. Okay,
hmm
so this guy is like he's a specialist, and it was not cheap, maybe $800 a year to keep this tree going.
hmm
So the first time I used him, I said to him, "Hey, put me on your calendar. Just call me next year because in Arizona, it gets very, very hot. And so there's only certain times of year that they can trim and fertilize trees. If you cut them in the summer, it'll kill them.
hmm
If it cut when it's too cold. So there's like very short windows that you can trim these trees. And I was always forgetting. So I'm like, dude, can you just put me on your calendar? And he looked at me like I had three heads. Like I want to give you money
Yes.
and I want you to come and do it. You don't even have to knock on my door. I don't have dogs. You can walk in here and do this anytime you want and just send me a bill. In fact, I would like to not even have you call me. Just every, June 1st or every whatever, April 27th, show up and do it and let me pay you money. And he's like, yeah, no, we don't do that. So I had to remember to call him every year. But that interaction with him, I realized I have clients like that want to come one time a year or sometimes more. And
Hmm.
if I just contacted them, they can tell me that they don't want me. That like, hey, we're going to do pictures in Hawaii this year. We're going to Cabo, whatever. It's no big deal. It's not like they're rejecting me. And I'm not like putting myself out there in this big scary way. I'm just letting them know, hey, before we let it and before we open up the calendar to anybody else, you have first dibs if you need a session. And most of that's done by text. Like we're not even calling and we're doing it by text.
Hmm.
And it's just easy. And that's how we book our calendar.
Yeah, that, it's so simple and yet so brilliant. And I think the truth is 90% of who we might perceive as real competitors, like colleagues that are in the same niche, are not doing that. So that puts
Right.
us, ahead in so many ways. I love that. That's brilliant. And that is one of the things that for me, had I had more of a team over the years, then that could have been more systemized. I always
Hmm.
sent holiday greetings to all my clients and, other contacts. But, to have $1 million studio, you already said it. It's the little things. Like that's not a big
Yeah.
thing to do.
No.
As
Well,
I
because
also,
I'm not a good marketer. Like I don't want to be thinking up some, like if you buy this, you get 25 extra cards. Like I hate being marketed to that way. And
Mhm.
I don't want to market that way. And I don't want to have to be continually like thinking up what's the next promo. I just want to attract people who are great and keep them. Like
Yeah,
that's it. That's what I want to do. And I want to work with them forever. But I need to, you have to, obviously you have to keep getting new clients because people will quote unquote age out ish. I can make the case against that a little bit, but you need to have new families that have younger kids coming in all the time. And we do that as well. But I just think so many people just seem flabbergasted. Like, wait, you call people?
I know.
You know, well, or actually, what is more common is like, okay, yeah. You talk to your existing clients. Well, but how do I get new ones? Like, people don't want to hear that.
Mhm.
It's like diet and exercise. Nobody wants to hear about how to actually lose weight. They
Right,
want to hear about like, what is the pill?
right. And now
What is
there's
the
a shot.
surgery? What is,
Yeah.
yeah,
Now there's a shot for once a week to do that, but it's not like diet and exercise.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I think I've been quite surprised at how many of our colleagues don't even keep a list of their clients. That uh like people that are doing really well, that have great sales, but don't treat their clients like gold in the way that you're talking about. And it's pretty simple to make sure
Yeah.
you collect phone numbers, emails, addresses, put it in
Right.
a database.
Well, that's the only thing your business is worth is your database.
Right, right.
Is that list. Everything, if you're not doing that, you're just doing booty call. And you got to keep getting booty call over and over and over again. And that is exhausting to continually
Yeah,
get the new
yeah.
booty. Like, dude, I don't want to do that. Like I want serial monogamy. That's what I'm about. Like you're probably gonna have to cut that part out.
No,
But
I'm
but I
not.
mean seriously, like
I'm not.
I want relationships. I want people
Right.
that get me and that I get them and then we come back year after year. And some of my clients come every year and then some of them come every other year. And then there's some that will come like every 3 to 4 years. If you have like multi-gen families, those
Mhm.
are usually every 4 to 5 years. So but it all cycles around. And it's a foundation that it's like having $1 million in the bank to know that I have that many people, and it's not a ton. It's not a ton of people. It's not thousands of people. It's,
Mhm.
a few hundred, but it's just to know that those people, I'm so excited that I'm going to see them. I know what's going on with their kids and I have a relationship with them. And it's not just the money, it's the meaning and the joy
Right.
of going to work every day.
Yeah, that soul connection that you talked about. It is, I have a family that I did all the kids' first communions. She didn't find me until she had her last of six babies. So I did the baby portrait, first communion, periodic family portraits of all
Hmm.
um, graduation, and I did the first wedding in Hawaii, and uh, it was so wonderful. And I have a friend that assists me, so as many times as possible, I would bring Judy. So it was just like old home week, and each of
Yeah.
the kids has their own personality. Like it's just a joy to watch them all blossom. I
Right.
wanted
And
to,
that client, oh, sorry. I was gonna say that client is, probably well over $100,000, invested with you
easily, easily.
easily. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, oh, I wanted to circle back when we were talking about families. Instead of telling us one of my stories about a family that was positively impacted or commented about the value of the work we did for them, I wondered if you had a story of a family you can think of where you absolutely know from them, what it was to work with you and have this art.
Well, my brand shtick, whatever you want to call it, is a little bit different in that, I've been going on about like my pieces of my soul and meaning and all and connection and all of that, and that is all absolutely true. But also core to my brand is the real, and like with a healthy level of snark. So as a mom of seven kids, two of my kids have autism. There is absolutely nothing that any client can bring in. There's nothing you're going to drag across my doorstep that I haven't seen, haven't punished, haven't grounded. I've seen it all. You're not going to knock me back. It's just not
Right.
going to, so people will say, "Oh, I've got this 14-year-old and he hates getting pictures." And I'm like, "Yep, he's going to be my favorite." So I love that idea. I love the real personality. And so what I get the most is we'll get is are the on the way home texts. So they
Hmm.
haven't even seen a portrait yet, but they're like, that is the first time my kids have ever had a good time having their family picture taken. My husband was like, we're never going anywhere else
Mm-hmm.
because it was in studio. It wasn't hot. They weren't wearing like a quarter zip Ralph Lauren sweater on the golf course in October and it's 107 degrees outside. They were like in, out, fun. The music was bumping. There were snacks. Like it was good. And we kept the energy going and the parents have to do nothing. And so I think that's a big way that we can impact is you take something that they think is going to be like having their teeth scraped. Like the women are into it, the moms are into it, but the boys and the men are not into it. They do not want to do it.
Hmm.
And they leave having a great time and they want to come back. They're like, I'd do that again. When are we going to go back?
Mm. Yeah, that's huge. And that's something we may not think about while we're wrangling all of the things that are involved in doing a session, creating a session, is the experience. I think that also can
Yeah.
get overlooked about the value when we do a
Well, because think
callback.
about the poor woman, the mom. I mean, you're borderline on divorced on the way there. Like you hate every one of your
Oh,
kids,
yeah.
and they find like, the only piece of chocolate that was like underneath the back seat and wipe it all over their outfit. I mean, or whatever, fill in disaster, blank of disaster here. And then they come through the door and the moms are hoping they look good, but they were the last person on the list to look, to even be considered because they're so busy getting everybody else ready.
Mhm.
And that you can bring them in and say, like, if I always say, like, if you can just get here, we'll handle the rest. And you're actually not allowed to talk to your kids. And so I am incredibly controlling. Like
Mhm.
there's no like, let's see where this goes. What do you want? No, no, no. There's no what do you want. I'm not standing there with the camera saying, what do you want? I already know what you want. And I know what I want. And I know what's going to happen. And we're going to make that happen. And you don't get to talk to your kids. And if you try to, then I'll put you in timeout and your kids love it. And they think it's hilarious. And that's how we get the expression is punishing the parents in front of the kids. They love it.
I feel like uh, if needed, you could step in and run my business, that part, or I could step in. We have
Yeah.
so much similar. There was a point where I put in my notes that we go over that no yelling at your kids on the way. And I say, your
Yeah.
kids are going to be bratty. Your husband's not going to be into this. It's so stressful. And if you yell or you threaten a punishment or you don't get this on the way, think about how hard it's going to be for me to get them to smile. So
Yeah.
if you feel like there's a justified consequence later, say
Yeah.
it, please. And that helped so much for the moms and dads to realize that it was counterproductive
Yeah.
to,
Just setting an expectation.
yeah,
Yeah, I have the same thing. No nagging, bribing, or threats. And then I even took it down to the, I didn't put this in print, but I do tell every mom, I'm like, look, give the dad a quickie the night before. Like, I don't need some dude showing up mad. Like, he needs to be happy. Like, throw him a bone. Like, please. Because like everybody needs to be happy. They need to have snacks. And then they don't feed them snacks. They bring them after school. They're starving. So then we just decided, okay, we got to have snacks here that don't, like string cheese or whatever that's not going to mess up their clothes.
right.
But we have to have snacks for them because they're dying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's in my tips too when we're going on location is bring snacks, no sugar, nothing purple or colored. Keep it
Yeah.
a secret because they'll want it if they know
Yeah.
it's there and it's just medication for later.
Yeah.
It's not a reward, it's not a treat. It's to get the blood sugar back up.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, but just taking that control, it's like so often I
exactly.
think we think, oh, the customer's always right, and let's just give them
Mm.
what they want. They don't know what they want. They don't know how to photograph. They don't know what looks,
No.
they don't know what they don't know what clothes look good on camera. They don't know how, they don't know. That's why they're hiring us. And again, that goes back to that value-based pricing.
Hmm.
Because we know all of that, like we're older moms, we're experienced photographers, we've seen what happens when you don't do these things. So they're not just paying for this image, they're paying for all of that expertise that is going to make something amazing for them. And the reason why it's amazing is because we know what we're doing.
Yeah. And we're not just, let's just show up at the park and
Yeah.
snap some pictures because
See what happens.
I only want candids. I love
Yeah.
Roberto Valenzuela. Do you know him? Have you been in his
Hmm.
workshops at all? And when he says, I'm not going to use his beautiful accent,
Yeah.
but he
Yeah.
says when people say they want only candids, I say, you're going to look fat.
Yeah.
Because we know that this is a two-dimensional surface and direction, even if it looks super candid and does have an element, we still know best about what's going to work for them because this is what we do. And
Yeah.
it's
You can
definitely
still
worth
have
money.
candid within a structure.
Right. And it's worth way more than the multiplication factor of four times or whatever. It to me, the actual cost is almost like a gift to them. They pay
Hmm.
all the all of the creation and time and energy and things we've learned and experience and all that stuff. And then, okay, and I'm going to have a lab bill, but I don't factor in, except for what you mentioned, I make sure that if something's expensive, I mark it up at least three or four times so that I can damage it or order it wrong and still make a profit. But
Yeah.
not with small stuff that's,
Yeah.
under $100 each. Okay. So we talked a little about pricing. We talked about uh, general client experience. Um, Anything else in the what it takes in terms of the business part to have a successful business? Like, what do we need to be able to manage to really be running a healthy business?
I would just say um, everything is your fault
Mm.
as far as the client's concerned. Like once somebody spends one penny with you, they are holding you to account. So if they look fat, if they show up wearing a circus tent and you didn't because you didn't advise them on what to wear, no matter what happens, it's your fault. So if it's your fault, take control and know that if you take control and guide the client, the more you take control, the better the clients like it.
Hmm.
Your the very best clients, your very, very highest spending, delightful to work with, have all have one thing in common, and that is they trust you.
Hmm.
They know that they are hiring somebody that knows something that they don't know, and they want to outsource that crap. They want you to tell them what to do. They want that. Somebody that wants to tell you what to do is a crap client.
Hmm.
That's somebody that rolls in with their Pinterest board who's doing 75 sessions a year because they fancy themselves an influencer and they're just running all the nice little girls around town who have a nice camera and are going to give them all the files they want. I don't want to work with that person.
No.
I don't want to work with that client. I want to work with the client who owns their own business. They are they have their own lane of expertise and they are busy doing that, and they want me to do my expertise for them, and they want to enjoy it. They want to just sit back and relax and have me tell them this is how it works, this is how it goes, and this is how much it is. Do you want to do that? And they're like, yes. And then there are clients who they say they want all those things, and then you tell them the price and they say, ooh, I didn't realize it was going to be that much money.
Mm.
But instead of me telling myself the story of, okay, see, nobody's going to pay that.
Yeah.
See, that means I'm too expensive. What I say is, you know what? It is. I just agree with them when they say that's expensive. I say, you're right, it is. And you know what? We know that not everybody needs this level of expertise or quality. We get that. Not everybody needs this level of service or wants it. But when you do, we're here. And nobody leaves my consultation mad. Nobody leaves going, who does she think she is charging that much? They leave going, okay, I thought I just wanted holiday cards. And I really did just want holiday cards. So I'm not wasting my money on just for her for holiday cards. But when my family comes into town and we're all together and my next one's about to graduate and we want it big on the wall and it's going to be amazing, I know who to call.
Mm.
So to me, that's success.
Right. So you give them a clear picture of who you are, what you do, what you offer, why it's worth what you charge, whether or not it's in their budget or whether they want it. You make sure that they fully understand that value and that you're the leader and they're, yeah, all the things.
Well, they don't care about me. They don't care about me. They
No,
don't care if I'm the
right.
leader or not.
But the,
They only care about how it affects them. And so really, and so I'm glad you brought that up because that ultimately is the bottom line is like they don't care that it's printed on, canvas that was rolled between the thighs of virgins and trucked across the Himalayas. Like nobody cares about any of that, right? They don't care what it was framed in. They don't care that the reason why it's this much money is because it came from Italy and blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares. What they care is that you have to do nothing. You're
Mhm.
going to roll in here and it's going to be great. We're going to print it to perfection. We're going to frame it to perfection. I'm going to tell you what it all needs to be printed on. I'm going to tell you what it needs to be printed on. I'm going to tell you what it needs to be framed in. I'm going to tell you which one I think you should buy. I'm going to tell you what wall I think it should go on and what size it needs to be. Done, 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 done. But if you don't want that, if you don't want somebody to tell you all of those things, then there are 25 girls in your neighborhood with a nice camera that can do this for you. You don't need me for that. You
And
need me when it has to be perfect and
right,
on the wall, big.
right. And you make sure they understand that so that if at some time they want that, or if someone's asking around, they may say,
Right.
well, I used so and so, but I really wish I had, or if I'm going to do X, this is who I'm going to.
Happens all the time. I get referrals from people that I've never worked with.
Yeah. I used to get them, especially with weddings, with people that chose someone else and regretted it, or I wasn't available and
Yeah.
they use somebody else, but they wish they had, so they share me rather than
Yeah.
the person they worked with. And that's that, giving them the perceived value, which is the actual value of what we're offering. I love that. Um, so I think in all of this, the mindset without using the M word has been a huge part of this conversation. Is there anything else in mindset that you think needs
Well, it's
mentioning?
again, you are responsible for it. You're going to be blamed for it. Everything is your fault. So take control. And when something goes wrong, so You try something new, you raise your prices, you have a particularly fraught client conversation, something that knocks you back. Instead of just, you know, descending into the fetal position immediately, there's always a place to trace that where that went wrong. There's
Mm,
always a way to figure that out. And so to me, that's information. It doesn't mean I suck. It doesn't mean I should completely change my business or get out of the business. It doesn't mean any of those things that as artists that we like to tell ourselves. It's just a result. Something happened and we got into a sales appointment and they were shocked by price. Like in my world, that is a very bad result
mhm.
that they are shocked by price in the sales appointment. They should be shocked by price in the consultation,
Right.
not in the sales appointment. So that I can immediately say, okay, wait a minute. Where did we go wrong? So I can realize, oh, wait, I got way too chatty with her because we went to high school together. We got
Mm,
talking about memories and we didn't talk enough about price. Or I told her, but she didn't tell her husband. Or, fill in the blank of what might have gone wrong. But it's important to trace that back and realize, okay, I did it. It's not just because they are a cheap person and they're a jerk and they don't get
right.
us. It's because we did not share the information appropriately. We weren't transparent enough. Somewhere along the way, it went wrong. And if you can trace that back, you can fix it the next time.
Yeah, it makes me so happy to hear that. I think one reason I feel like we have so much in common is that we learn from our experiences. That like when I used to do weddings on the way home, uh, the assistant that I had for probably at least half the weddings, we would talk about it. What could we do different? What went well?
Hmm.
And so everything got smoother and smoother and better and better. And the same with portrait sessions. And so I love if there's any nugget that someone plants in their brain forever from Allison that is the little unspoken, wasn't in my notes, was learn from experience, evaluate. I love what you said about take responsibility. Um, don't blame the clients, blame in a kind way.
Yeah.
Take a look at your procedures, your expectations, all the things, and see if there's
Right. Because that's empowering.
yeah,
That's ultimate power. If I know that I did it, I can fix it.
right.
If it's some weird client, I can't control the client. I can only control me.
Hmm.
There's a famous quote by Michael Korda, he wrote a book about the bestseller list, but it says the difference I'm going to paraphrase, but something like the difference between, you know, the most successful people is the ability to take responsibility. And
Mm,
so if no matter what happens, like, I mean, even somebody that turns into a complete lunatic and is screaming at you, which there's no reason for that ever,
mhm,
go back. Okay, how could I have prevented this? How could I? And there's always something. There's
mhm.
always something I should have seen in the consultation that it wasn't a fit and that he was going to be a lunatic and I should have told him to go somewhere else.
Yeah, right.
Even if it's down to that. So I think we have so much more control than what we think we do, and we devalue ourselves, and we think that there are so many things outside of our control. And really, I think if we really just look at the value of what we do and the control that we can take, we can give clients an amazing experience, and they will pay for it.
Hmm. Hmm. And we will enjoy our life with amazing clients that
Yeah.
appreciate us. And like these portraits behind me, I have just huge, wonderful memories of all of the art that I put on the walls that are client work because, all the things you're talking about happened with those families and kids. So I have two questions for you, and I think I could talk to you forever, Miss Allison. So, hey, Allison's coming to San Diego, April. It's the
8th and 9th.
second Tuesday and Wednesday of the month is our usual meetings. And so
Hmm.
if you're listening to this before then, come on down. Get the ninth is a full day. The eighth is the our evening program that everybody is welcome to join. So do you have other um, like guest appearances? Do you have workshops or anything?
Um, yeah, I'm going to be this weekend, early next week. I'll be in Minneapolis for similar a local PPH chapter, and then we're just launching our boot camp, which is like a really cheap $47 boot camp that we're doing that opened registration today and starts March 31st. So that would be like a really easy way for somebody to, get in and get a little tune up on their business. And, so uh, dotherework.com is my website where that information is. But yeah, I'm happy to help. I'm a big DMer too. If I'm at ATJ Photo on Instagram. And so if anybody wants to reach me directly there, if anybody has questions, I'm always happy to help. Want portrait photographers to thrive.
Got it. I so feel that and hear that from you. And I know you have a little gift for my listeners. And what would that be and how did they find that?
I do. So one of the biggest problems that especially when I was newer in the business, but I have seen a lot of established photographers have problems with is their calendar. Like
Mm.
a client calls and they're like, I need to get in this Saturday. Do you? Do you need to get in on a Saturday? So how can we take control of our calendar and really make it work for us so that we are at our very best for our clients, we have our maximum energy for our clients, and then also we're getting all the things done we need in our business. So we have what we call our time blocking tool, and that's available on dotherework.com/time blocking, just all one word, and it's free. And so it's just a PDF download on like how we structure our calendar, how we block out. I go out ahead, usually by a quarter, and block out certain days for certain things. And it's amazing, especially if you have somebody else that's working with you, or you want to hire somebody to start running your calendar, which is very scary. But this is how you do it. This is how you're able to like let that go and make your calendar really work for you. So now, unless it's the busy season, I am working like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. I don't work Fridays. I don't work weekends, and I'm able to do that. And it works out amazing. I can spend time with my 11 grandkids.
Awesome. Okay, so last question is just if there's anything that you think, oh, I wish I had mentioned that one tip or that one thing, or if there's just a little parting thought. And I think you kind of already gave a good parting thought before I ask you, but the floor is yours for just whatever last thoughts you might have.
I think probably reiterating a little bit, but um, we are just more in our own way than we are not. And so when things are not going the way we want, I don't have enough new clients, or I don't have good clients, or I'm not making enough money, or whatever. Somewhere along the way, there's a story that you've told yourself that either you're not worthy of that, your work isn't worthy of it, nobody's going to pay it, we're in a bad economy, politics are crazy, fill in the blank again of whatever the fear. And if I just really believe that if you can sit with, when we were talking early on about what it is that you really are bringing to these clients' lives, and that we are creating the thing that if their house is burning down, that's what they're grabbing, besides the actual people in the picture.
Mhm.
It's like, that's amazing, um, so just feel that, like, go to that place more often than not when you're feeling scared. You're working on updating your pricing and you start to feel scared, like, oh my gosh, I can't. Go to that place and realize like what it is that you're actually bringing, and know that you're constantly up leveling every year. Like, I meet photographers all over the world, and there's not any one of them that are slackers. Like, they're all working super hard.
Mhm.
They're killing themselves, but they're not, what I see is they're not charging what they should be. And so they aren't able to make the living that they need to doing what they love. This is a gift to the world. You are a gift to the world, and we need to charge accordingly so that we can live our life and live a beautiful life, so that we can and support our families and our life, and support our clients and having beautiful artwork in their home.
I love it. And we deserve it. You know, other people have big careers that are paid well for what they do. But what we do, I love that you said that. What we do is one of the most valuable things that people can own.
What
So,
better could they spend their money on?
yeah.
Like buy a Ferrari? I mean, yeah, okay, that's great. A sexy house, amazing. Love all of those things. But really, the meaning they couldn't. I mean, this is the best thing they could possibly spend money on. I am convinced of that.
Hmm. Hmm.
But if you're not convinced of that, your clients will never be convinced of it. So it's again, it's just get out of your own way.
I love it. I love it. Well, Allison Taylor Jones, this has just been a delight, and I'm so excited to see you in person in April. And
Yeah, I'm looking
um,
forward to it.
yeah, and so remember everyone listening to stay tuned for my little quick wrap up. There was so much that uh, I'll just touch on a few things, but I'm sure everybody else is super happy that you said yes to be on this show, just like me. So thank you, Allison.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
So, oh my gosh, that was such a great conversation. And Allison has such a, I'm sorry, yes, Allison has such a beautiful way of sharing from her heart, but also from her experience about what it takes to have a very successful business and how to serve our clients. And I love the first thing when I ask her about uh, business, what you need to think about or know. And she said, we have to charge more than we spend. And and that the bottom line minimum is 4 times, although I'm sure she agrees that that doesn't include 8x10s and things that are just basically pocket change. Um, but that really we need to ultimately price ourselves in a value-based model because we're creating custom commissioned artwork if we're doing portraits and weddings for people and pets and so forth. It's only being created for one person, one family. And so that means we need to charge accordingly for that. And then I also loved how she said we have to realize that everything's in our control and everything's our fault. So if something does not go the way we want it, learn from it, think about what we could do differently, and make some changes. And sometimes, like you might think, oh, I had this horrible client, there's no way I could have made it turn out differently. Well, maybe the way is to learn how to recognize the difficult clients in advance and not book them. Um, And let's see, she says, we're more in our way than we think. I really appreciate how she highlighted that when we have thoughts that are like negatively impacting our business, we can rethink. So, if we're blaming the economy or the politics or our neighborhood, or, if we ever start with no one will, something like that, we know we're in territory that isn't really going to get us where we want to go. So that was such a pleasure. And I'm excited that I'm going to be on her show. So keep your eye out for me on REWork, and we'll continue this conversation with the things that I have to share with her audience, which I'm sure is my audience too. So that's it for now. And I love you all. And I'm so grateful that you are continuing to do the work out in the world that I think is so important, is helping people connect with the love they have in their lives, the the business, the life changes, all the things that make life worth living, in my opinion. We get to be involved in that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will see you next time. Bye.